tracks in the sand. Hole punches, fighters, conspiracies tight. He's podcasting strong, deep into the night. From the man from UNCLE to the Motown scene. He's dropping gems like you never seen. Oh, you know Tom Gulley, he's the podcast king. Say what? Ladies man with a smooth, sweet swing. Bigfoot, spider, and 9/11 schemes. Tom's a man of your wildest dreams. Tom Gulley, he's got charm, got wit, and a silky flow. Oh yeah, talking mysteries only Tom would know. From R&B to the funk so tight, so tight. He's spinning webs like a spider at night. His voice is smooth like a Motown jam. Ooh-wee. You can't help but say that's my man. Oh yeah, Tom Gulley, he's the podcast king. Ladies man with a smooth, sweet swing. Bigfoot, spiders, and 9/11 schemes. Tom's the man of your wildest dreams. Tom Gulley, I'm gonna, Tom Gulley, I'm gonna, Tom Gulley, I'm gonna, Tom Gulley, I'm gonna, who's that man with the smoothest plan? Tom Gulley's got the upper hand. Ooh yeah, he's got style, got brains, got a podcast too. Dropping truth bombs, he's coming for you. Evil puppets think they can play, but the man from Gulley don't sway. He's sharp as a tack, clever and sly. When he's in the zone, they can't deny. He's the man from Gulley. He'll outsmart the devil verse every day. The man from Gulley. Say what? Taking down those puppets in his funky way. He's got moves like a Motown king. Words so smooth, they gotta sting. With a mic in hand, he's a podcast pro. Evil schemes on wherever he goes. Clap your hands now. Tom don't run, Tom don't hide. He's got that funky justice stride. With the bass line bump and the horns on blast. He's fighting those puppets, making it last. Say, Tom Gulley, say the man. Say Gulley, Gulley. He's got the plan. He's the man from Gulley. Oh yeah, he'll outsmart
with a golden crown. Tom Gulley's ready, no time to slow down. His voice a river, smooth and deep. He's got the stories that make the city weep. Walking streets where legends grow. Everywhere he stops, they already know. Tom Gulley goes to town. Oh, he lights it up, never lets it down. Tom Gulley goes to town. He's the man they cheer, the talk of the town. Oh, yeah, yeah. Woo, yeah. Woo, yeah. Barbershop chatter, a wave and a grin. Coffee shop wisdom, let the tales begin. The baker hands him a loaf with a smile. Tom, you're the man who makes life worthwhile. A mic in his hand, the airwaves ignite. He spins a story, he turns on the light. Listeners gather from far and wide. Tom Gulley's words, a city's pride. Tom, he lights it up, never lets it down. Tom Gulley goes to town. He's the man they cheer, the talk of the town. Tom Gulley goes to town. Oh, he lights it up, never lets it down. Tom Gulley goes to town. He's the man they cheer, the talk of the town.
Hey, everybody, what's going on? What's hot? What's hip? What's happening? What's shaking? That's another of those tunes that the great Leon Kennedy's been putting together for us. And he actually did some artwork for this one, as you can see right yonder there, as we used to say back home in Indiana. That's what we used to say. Hey, do us a favor, like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell, all the very free things you can do to help us with the algorithm, the almighty, all-powerful, all-knowing, all-seeing algorithm, like we like to do, the algorithm, you know. It helps us out. We do have super chats. We do have memberships. We do have the PayPal where you give the most and I get the most, and Google gets nothing. And then we have the merch in our store at the Tom Gulley Show. All this stuff is in the description. We're also going to put it up right now in the begging bar at the bottom of the screen. And that'll be great. We've got very few comments so far. But we do have the lovely and talented Doopa-Doopa-Doo here. She says hello. Hello. People saying hi. Hopefully we'll get some more in here as time goes along. I actually was using OBS the last few days, and you know what? As clunky as it is, and as I need to add some things to it, man, it's just better than this. This collapsed on me after I loaded all my pictures in today, and I had to scramble to put some more in. But this weekend, I am going to try Streamlabs with OBS, that interfaces with OBS, and we'll see. Maybe that'll be a better way to go, because I hate StreamYard so much. It's really a lot. Terry Nee has joined us. Terry Nee, the dean of Dabbleverse chat room moderators, and also the owner of a player piano. So whatever you want to do with that, go ahead and do it. Hey, listen. I don't know. Tonight I'm going to tell you about what were known as the Burger Chef murders, sometimes known as the Speedway murders, an unsolved murder case from 1978 in Indianapolis, and a bad one, and a creepy one. Now, we need a little background here. Just a touch of background. I don't know if you remember, and we may do an entire... Thank you, StreamYard, for changing completely the... There we go. No, I'll do that. Let me get that. Why would I want to still be in the same setup I was? But that's silly. God. Terry says he's dabble adjacent. No, you're not, Terry. You are knee deep in the Dabbleverse. You have Dabbleverse caked to you when you go to sleep at night. Anyway, I don't know how many of you remember Burger Chef, the fast food chain. But for a good period of time, it was a major competitor of the mighty McDonald's. And for my money, it was a better restaurant. They were a pioneer of many things. For a while, you had the Works bar in there where you'd order your hamburger and could put anything you wanted on it. That was a big thing they did. They were, I believe, the one that beat McDonald's to the punch with the Happy Meal concept. I think they called theirs the Fun Meal. They had, in response to the Big Mac, they had the Big Chef. Oh, the Big Chef was a good burger. Ooh, the Big Chef was great. Eventually, Hardee's bought them and drove them into the ground. So I don't think any of them left. But during the 70s, 80s, and 90s, Burger Chef was a legitimate competitor to McDonald's. They were everywhere. We have Jay Bizzle showing up. He says, "Hey, Tom." Hello, Jay Bizzle. How you doing? How's your word to your mother? Anyway, so Burger Chef was a fast food restaurant. Now, another thing that was true back in the late 70s and probably all throughout the 80s at least, these days, when you go to a McDonald's, I live in a big city, and when I go to McDonald's, even in the evening, it is not completely staffed with high school kids. When I was growing up and stuff, it was. That was your go-to high school job, whether it was McDonald's or Wendy's or KFC. At nighttime, it was completely staffed with people under 20 years old. Totally. Even the manager usually was somebody that maybe was in college or something, and just that was their side job. I don't see that as much anymore. When I go in there, there's like working professionals, adults are in there working. Now, in the morning time, yes, a lot of those people were adults, until school got out. But when school got out, that place was full on. I worked at McDonald's, okay, for a number of years when I was in high school. I also worked at Steak and Shake, and I worked at Pizza Hut when I was in college, and Little Caesars. I was the Little Caesars assistant manager when I was in college. I had a lot of jobs when I was in college. And so when I worked at McDonald's, I worked on the grill, right? There was me and another dude from my high school, and then there was like 4 high school girls, 2 on the register, 2 doing the drive-through, and then like a very young person would be the manager while we were all doing this. There was no adults there at all. I don't see that as much anymore unless I'm in a far-flung town somewhere in the middle of nowhere. Sometimes you see it. And you do see young people working there. It's just not completely staffed anymore like it used to be. So that's something to keep in mind because it does play a part in this mystery that is still unsolved. Second thing, this happened in 1978. I was at the end of my paperboy career in 1978. I can recall the newspapers with the headlines about this incident. I delivered those, and I delivered the paper at like 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning at the latest. It was pitch black, and I was scared out of my mind. This story really creeped everybody out badly. It still should. And I, for reasons that we'll get to, don't think this will ever be solved. And you may be thinking, well, who cares? Once you hear what happened, you might care. you might care. This is not an everyday run-of-the-mill thing that happened, okay? So let's get to a couple of your comments, and then we'll dive into this. Jay Bizzle says, doing I. Leon Kennedy's here. I played that great new song, Tom Gulley Goes to Town, with the artwork just minutes ago. He says, I don't think we had Burger Chef in England. We had Little Chef. No, you didn't have Burger Chef in England. I can guarantee that. Burger and Shake around here in the 70s. Fix your own toppings. Yeah, that became a thing. They don't do it anymore. I think they found that putting all that lettuce and tomatoes and pickles out there, you were throwing away too much of it, and it was just easier to let people request it on their own. Living wages killed kids' jobs. I don't know what that means, because I don't think that is a living wage, but I do know people that worked there for minimum wage that at the time, if you worked 40 hours a week with overtime a little bit, you had your own apartment and a car and everything else back then. I don't think you could do it now. Leon Kennedy says, I worked at Burger King when I was a teenager. I love Burger King. I really do. I just saw something. Did you hit the people with the spatula? No, I did not hit the people with the spatula. But one thing I did do occasionally was, those milk crates, those plastic square box milk crates? Because I was quite a card back then. I would take one of those, turn it upside down so that the bottom was on the top. And because that thing was sort of, latticed, I would put a grill towel through it, tie it on the top of my shoes, and walk around on those, which would make me 1.5 feet taller. And I am the world's tallest grill person. I did things like that. Terry Nee says Tom cut the ribbon at Ball State when they broke ground. Well, I think it broke ground as the Indiana Normal School, then became the Indiana Teachers College, then became Ball State Teachers College, then eventually in 1971 or 65, one of the two, became Ball State University. And I did not cut the ribbon. I was there in attendance, but I did not cut the ribbon. Anyway, let's get into this. I'm just going to go ahead and put this up for a little background here for you. Between 11 o'clock, which was the closing time, and midnight on November 17th, so after the restaurant had closed, 4 employees of the Burger Chef restaurant at 5725 Crawfordsville Road disappeared. Now, that's in Speedway, Indiana, and it's called Speedway, Indiana because the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the site of the Indy 500, is in Speedway. Crawfordsville Road is one of the roads that butts right up against the Motor Speedway. The 4 people that disappeared were assistant manager Jane Freed. She's there on the left. She was 20. Daniel Davis, 16. He's on the far right. Mark Flemons, also 16. He's second from the left. And Ruth Ellen Shelton, 17 years of age. So what happened was, and this was common too back in the day, a fellow employee, like you would close the restaurant and other employees, if they were hanging around, driving around, whatever, they would just show up and hang out and maybe get a free Coke or something while everyone was closing the restaurant, which is cleaning all the parts, washing down all the tables, mopping all the floors. Well, a fellow employee comes by at about midnight to visit these 4 people. And that employee noticed that the restaurant was empty, the safe was open, and the back door, where you would normally take out all the trash and do that sort of thing, was ajar, was not closed, which is extremely uncommon. Police found 2 empty currency bags, which you might call bank bags. You've seen them. They're leather. They're about this big. You take them for a deposit. And they found an empty roll of adhesive tape next to the open safe. All right. Police originally, and this is key here, the police originally didn't take this seriously, okay? The management of the restaurant, because the records of what was sold that night were kept by the assistant manager. That paperwork was very important, and it was done. And only $581 had been generated that night. Now, that's about $2,800 today. And there weren't any signs of struggle. So the police thought this is petty theft, okay? These kids have gotten a little crazy and they got the cash out of the safe and they went partying or they went doing something else, okay? Because there was $100 in coins that was left in the register. So they didn't think, well, this isn't a theft. Now, the purses and the jackets of the 2 missing women were left at the Burger Chef. So the theft theory initially seemed most likely that these kids had stolen the money and went joyriding. And therefore, the scene was cleaned. Completely cleaned, because you remember the stores being closed. That's a big thing about having one of those jobs, is when you close it, you basically clean the whole restaurant top to bottom. Well, the employees came in Saturday morning. That hadn't been done. So they wiped down the whole place top to bottom. Buddy Ellwanger, who was a Speedway police officer that caught the case, he admits, and admitted at the time, we screwed it up from the beginning. Because not only was the restaurant completely cleaned and allowed to be reopened, they didn't take any photographs. Basically, they eliminated all potential evidence from the crime scene. Nothing is there now. Now, these 4 kids didn't appear the following morning, and they found the assistant manager, who you see there on the left, Miss Freed. They found her Chevy Vega partially locked in town. And that made people more and more concerned. It started to become very evident that the 4 employees had been abducted while closing the restaurant for the night, and the attack possibly beginning as they removed trash bags out the back door. The reason that back door was ajar, right? Now, please keep in mind that, they're searching for them. They don't know where they are. Well, on Sunday afternoon, some hikers found the bodies of all 4 employees over 20 miles away in a wooded area of nearby Johnson County. Nearby, but 20 miles away. If you're going to abduct people, and steal $581 and then drive them out into the middle of nowhere and execute them. Both Davis and Shelton, the 2 people you see on the right, had been shot numerous times. This was a violent scene, numerous times with a .38 caliber firearm. Ms. Freed had been stabbed twice in the chest. The handle of the knife had been broken off and was missing. The blade, when they originally got there, they thought she'd just been stabbed. No, the blade was recovered during an autopsy. So it was lodged, and that's the reason the handle broke off. Flemons, who you see second from the left, he was determined to be bludgeoned to death, possibly with a chain. And he died from exsanguination and suffocation from his own blood. Now, that is an extremely violent scene. All 4 victims were still wearing their restaurant uniforms. Money and watches were found on all the victims. People all used to wear watches back then, especially if you worked fast food because you wanted to see when you got off work and all that. So that part of it couldn't have been robbery, right? They would have taken the money, they would have taken the watches. And that led some people to believe maybe robbery wasn't the motive for all this. The main theory of investigators has been, since this happened, that the 4 victims were kidnapped during a botched robbery, possibly after one of these 4 people recognized one of the perpetrators. Now, get this. Second from the left, Flemons. He was not scheduled to work that night. He was covering for another employee's shift, leading the investigators to speculate that perhaps he was the one that recognized the killers, since they hadn't planned on him being there. It might have been some killers that kind of knew what was going on, maybe knew some of the inner workings and decided this is when we're going to do it. This is how we're going to do it. So yeah, they did find them eventually. And this, as you might imagine, in Indianapolis in 1978 was huge, huge news. I mean, gigantic news. As you can see in the other, the other story down there, the Jonestown Massacre had happened slightly before that. Not a great time to be delivering the paper in terms of getting the willies, but they did find them out there, and obviously there's just some of the investigators out in Johnson County. Chef is in the kitchen with us. Leon Kennedy says that he's confessing. He's the one that did it. Well, I've spoken to people high up in the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department within the last few years, and I flat out asked him, I said, are they ever going to solve that? And the guy went, nope. Nope. Never going to be solved. Now, getting back to the restaurant, on the night of the murders, there was a 16-year-old eyewitness who saw 2 suspicious men in a car outside the Burger Chef just before closing. Both of the men were white and in their 30s. One man had a beard. The other was clean shaven with fair hair. And the police created models of these suspects in clay. That was the way you did it back then, was with clay, like a sculpture, to assist in the investigation. Now, get this. I could have shown you those model. There are pictures of them, but of course, as we all know, StreamYard's not going to let me, only put a certain number of pictures. And if I give them $50 a month, you know how many more pictures I get to show you? None. Same amount. Well, they are so awful looking that I decided it's not even worth showing you. It really is. But please keep in mind, one of them had a beard. The other was clean shaven with light colored hair. So this initial investigation gets underway, right? Later that year, there was a man in a bar in a town called Greenwood, which is, it might be its own separate town, but it's really the very southern tip of Indianapolis. And in the bar, he bragged that he was involved in these killings. So somebody tips off the police. They subsequently question him, but he passed a polygraph, and the officers were unable to charge him with anything else. That man, though, provided the names of other people he suggested belonged to a fast food robbery gang that investigators suspected may have been involved in the case. So the police, they're like, okay, let's follow this up. Let's see what's going on. And then led them to a town called Franklin, which is south of Indianapolis, not by a huge distance. It's a very small town. John Wooden, legendary basketball coach, is from Franklin. The police follow up these leads and they go to Franklin. And officers spotted a man who bore a strong resemblance to that clay model they had of the bearded man. So they summoned him into a lineup, but the man shaved his beard because he knew he was going to be in the lineup. He had had the beard for 5 years before shaving it off the night before he was to appear. A neighbor of his, who had not been spotted by the original witness, but who had been named by the Greenwood police as a suspect, later went to prison for armed robbery. And another person named by the Greenwood suspect, who fit the description of the fair-haired man, right, was also subsequently imprisoned for other armed robberies of fast food restaurants. But without any confessions, and despite offers of plea deals in the things they were actually convicted of, and with no physical evidence, the police couldn't make any arrests. Now, and I'm going to do a story about this next thing because it gets even creepier. All right? At the time, there was a great deal of speculation that the murders were tied to other crimes that had shocked Indianapolis in the preceding months. Chiefly the Speedway bombings. Before this happened, there were a series of bombings of buildings and cars, parked cars, in the town of Speedway by a man named Brett Kimmerlin. Brett Kimmerlin was dating the daughter of a woman named Julia Cyphers. She didn't want him dating that girl. She was preteen. It was creepy. He was not really even dating her. He was stalking her and obsessed with her. Julia Cyphers was shot dead in front of her house while trying to go into it, and they never found out who killed her. But there was obviously wild speculation that it was Brett Kimmerlin or somebody that he had do it. And at the time that they're doing this investigation, the perpetrator of the Speedway bombings was still on the loose. So there's huge speculation that there's just a crazy man running around bombing places, abducting kids, killing. Later, they determined that that was completely unconnected. But it was a factor. People were going absolutely nuts in Indianapolis, as you might imagine. As you might imagine. It was the biggest of big news in, at the time, sleepy Indianapolis. And it had me quaking in my boots every morning when I was delivering papers. What if that guy wants some of that fat newspaper cash I'm carrying around here? Incidentally, I was an honor carrier for the Indianapolis Star, which means I never had a complaint for a period of, I don't know how many years. And then subsequently became the highest rank, which was a Gold Star carrier, Gold Star honor carrier. And here's how you could tell the difference. When you were an honor carrier, when you started out, you just got a bag that said Indianapolis Star on it. If you were an honor carrier, you got a bag that said Indianapolis Star honor carrier. And then if you were a Gold Star one, you got a gold instead of a white, a gold bag. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I lived for back then. Let me see. Leon Kennedy says, never actually heard of this, which is strange because I enjoy true crime. Well, I'll get to some places you can watch a documentary on it. Just a second here. Chef said, I delivered newspapers during that time. And of course, I delivered that newspaper. Me too. Me too, Chef. Imagine me leaving the house with my sisters, fast asleep. Chef knows both of my sisters. He worked with them at a restaurant. He stayed in the business, and they chickened out to do other things. Anyway, investigators continued to follow leads, relating to suspects in Cincinnati, Milwaukee, Chicago, Dallas, but they weren't able to find any more promising leads or to locate the evidence that they thought maybe could close the case, like the firearm, the handle of the knife, or the chain that was used to bludgeon Mr. Flemons. By the way, I'd like to point out in this newspaper article, both of the boys are referred to by their last names, but this is how sort of innocent of a time 1978 was, at least in Indianapolis. It's Miss Freed. It's Miss Shelton. That's how proper Midwestern town was back then. Nobody involved in this crime made confessions to the police, though the son of that bearded suspect told police that the suspect had told him that he'd been involved just prior to his death. So the bearded suspect has passed away. Even if we somehow miraculously find out he did it, he's no longer with us. Ken York, who is one of the first investigators on the case, has pointed out that the deaths of the Greenwood suspect and the bearded suspect, from an apparent suicide for the Greenwood suspect and a heart attack for the bearded suspect, came suspiciously close after the release of that armed robber that lived nearby in Greenwood. He's like, was that guy involved? Did he put pressure on him? What was the deal? Now, in 1984, a full 6 years after this occurred, Detective Mel Wilsley, these are such Indianapolis names, of the Marion County, that's Indianapolis, is Marion County, Sheriff's Department, got a call from a man named Donald Forrester, who was an inmate at the Pendleton Correctional Facility. Pendleton is, 25 miles northeast of Indianapolis. It's on your way to Muncie and Ball State University. Can you dig it? So he gets a call from this inmate named Forrester, and Forrester claimed to have been involved in the murders and was willing to confess in order to avoid being transferred to a much more violent state prison. I can probably guess which one or ones that is, but we won't go there. Now, Detective Wilsley got a court order to bring Forrester to Marion County, where he confessed to shooting Davis and Shelton. He then led police to the crime scene in the woods, where he accurately described the location and the position of the bodies when they were found. He also knew about the broken handle of the knife, which at that time had not been publicized. You're thinking, this is a layup. This guy had to have been involved. And according to Forrester, here's what happened. Miss Freed, who you see on the far left here, right? Forrester said that her brother James owed. He owed money on a drug deal. So he, Forrester, and 3 other associates had gone to the restaurant to threaten her. But when Flemons, second from the left, intervened to protect her, a fight broke out, during which time Flemons fell and hit his head on the bumper of a car. Believing that Flemons was dead or dying, Forrester and his accomplices decided to abduct and kill all the employees to eliminate all witnesses of their crime. So they think they've killed Flemons. So they gather everybody up to cover up that killing, which actually wasn't a killing, and decide we'll do away with them so there won't be any evidence. Excuse me. Forrester claims to have shot Davis and Shelton, and he gave the names of 3 men he claimed were responsible for killing Flemons and Freet. He then led police to a spot where he says he had thrown the gun into a river. But the thorough search of the river didn't find any weapon. Detective Wilsley, interviewed Forrester's ex-wife, who said that he had driven out with her to a wooded area shortly after the murders and retrieved several shell casings, which he then flushed down the toilet. So Wilsley, being a good detective, gets a warrant. He gets a warrant to search the septic tank of the house, which turned up several spent .38 caliber shell casings. After one person in the sheriff's office leaked details of Forrester's cooperation with the police, remember, he's an inmate. He doesn't want to be seen cooperating with the police because, and take this down, kids at home, I don't know that this is true, but I have heard it for a long time. Snitches get stitches. Once that got leaked, he recanted his confession and claimed it was coerced. So with no further cooperation from Forrester and no direct evidence proving he committed the murders, Forrester was never charged. He died in prison from cancer at the age of 55 in 2006, so 20 years after he told the police all this stuff. Despite thousands of hours of police investigation, as well as Burger Chef offering a reward of $25,000, which is, I don't know, $150,000 today, to anyone who could capture the murderers or provide information about their whereabouts. The attackers were never prosecuted, and the case remains officially unsolved. The Indiana State Police continue to keep the case open and have reportedly investigated the use of DNA tracing techniques developed since the initial investigations, but they got nothing from the restaurant, and who knows if they can get anything off of an old Burger Chef uniform, if indeed those items were even kept. 1978 forensically was a much different time than the CSI world we live in now. Speaking of CSI, Terry Nee says, so you were out during the murders? Interesting. Yes, I was too young to drive. If you knew my father, I probably couldn't have even touched the car keys. And I lived 50 miles, not 50. Well, let me see here. I'll just check it out. I lived, daggone it. Why does it do this? Oh, God. Boy, AI, it's going to save us all, isn't it? I live 23 miles away. That's a pretty long walk for a paper boy. Terry Nee, why are you always trying to pin it on me? I think you did it. You're older than me. You probably had a learner's permit. During the summer of 2018, the Speedway community, as well as family and friends of the victims, raised money to plant 4 red oak trees to honor the victims. Each tree is adorned with a plaque with a short biography of each of the victims. The original monetary goal was surpassed within 24 hours. And with the tremendous amount of extra funds that they raised, a marble bench was installed and dedicated to their family and friends. On November 10th, 2018, 1 week before the 40th anniversary, a small dedication ceremony for family and friends was held at the memorial site at Leonard Park in Speedway. Now, if my good friend Leon Kennedy is still here. I got some news from him for him in just a second. By January of 2024, the former restaurant, last occupied by a Cashland pawn shop, was demolished. It was set to be demolished in January, and it was actually demolished the following March. So this location no longer exists. And I can tell you that I, without question, because I went to the race every year, went to this Burger Chef. It would have been likely I didn't go there after the, but I'm pretty sure me, my dad, and my uncle went through there on the way to the race, maybe when I was 10 or 11. On September 5th, this is for you, Leon Kennedy. Leon, are you still here? Investigation Discovery aired Murders at the Burger Joint, a documentary that digs deep into these still unsolved murders. And on June 21st, 2024, Vertical, which is an independent film distribution company, released The Speedway Murders to theaters. And I can tell you they'll probably go into more detail than me. They probably have, some of the investigators speaking, and they may indeed have a lot more photos. There were other photos, guys investigating out in the woods and stuff, and they will probably go into far more detail about these murders and how they actually happened. I didn't want to because, man, are they gruesome. They are so awful. Chef said, didn't you have a relative that laid bricks at the 500? Well, I don't know that my grandfather laid bricks there. It's very possible that he did. He was a contractor and worked on a lot of construction. But the main association with my grandfather at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, back in the day, like now, the only thing that happens on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is testing of cars and the Indy 500 and the Brickyard 400, the NASCAR race. But back in the day, a lot of other races were held there. And my grandfather was one of the organizers of a race called the Gold and the Glory. And it was a race for African-American race drivers. His best friend was a black gentleman who, when my grandfather raced his dirt track car, his buddy was the mechanic. And then when that guy raced, my grandfather was the mechanic. So the Gold and the Glory, I think there's a documentary on it. And there's a book about my grandfather, and it mentions this. But they held that race at the Indy 500. I think it was at the fairgrounds sometimes. But my grandfather did race dirt track races at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I mean, we've got photos and everything else. I think that's his main. But he may have laid some bricks there. He was the guy that did everything. He was the contractor for the original Indianapolis clay courts. He was the tennis pro at the Indiana Girls School. He did lots of stuff. He was a painter that had showings in New York and all sorts of other stuff. He was a dude. He did a lot of stuff. I think he still holds the record for the biggest channel catfish caught out of the Big Monon. He won ballroom dancing contests at the Indiana Roof. He was a guy. Let me see here. I think that's the guy's name. Let's see. He, in an exhibition fight, knocked down, I don't know, maybe it wasn't Marcel Cerdan, but he knocked down the middleweight champion of the world at the Indianapolis Athletic Club, because it was supposed to be sort of an exhibition, and the guy cracked both of his ears so bad they were bleeding and made my grandpa mad, and he hauled off. But yeah, he was a dude. He may indeed. I'd have to ask somebody. You lose track. There's so many stories about him. It's amazing. Michael Garner says your name should be Untomed Gullers. I don't know what that means. Terry says you seem to know a lot. You seem to know a lot about these killings. Oh no, maybe you know a little too much for your own good. Hey, do me a favor. Like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell. All the free things that you can do to help this show. Only costs a click. It's just a click. And it really helps us out because the algorithm is murdering me for some reason right now. We are so down all over the board, and I'm desperate to find out. I'm doing all the SEO stuff. I'm doing all the tagging. I'm doing all the same stuff. And it's just all of a sudden, I don't know what's going on. We also have super chats and memberships and, of course, PayPal. Some of that information is in the begging bar scrolling across the bottom of the screen. It's all in the description of this show on YouTube. And we appreciate that because our goal every night is any amount of money. And we have not achieved our goal in a couple of nights here. So, sometimes a little something for the effort, or a membership. We have very affordable memberships. So some have called it the greatest value in online streaming. Some have called it that. Some have called it that. What was the other thing? Oh, yeah, what am I going to do next week? What are the shows about? Last week at this time, I had them all planned out, but right now, I don't know anything. Let's see. Let me see here. Is this the same grandfather you gifted records to, and he laid on the floor by the speakers listening to the music for hours? Nope, that's my other grandfather, who was the plant manager for Nicholson File when files were a big thing. What do I got here? Do I got any of these things here? No, I think this is all my lists for this at the moment. I think it might be nothing there. Hey, remember when Don Giller was making mistakes and I had to tally them up? All right. All right. This is what we got going on here. Thank you, Dupa. Thank you, Dupa, for remembering that. Chef says, I have seen your Ball State shirt on. Do you have your ring? Are you kidding me, big fella? Of course I got the ring on. Of course I got that ring on. Okay, let's see here. What do I want to do next week? I've done all those. Where's my pen? Oh, there it is. Let's see here. Let's do, I'll tell you what, next Thursday we'll do another true crime. We'll do the Springfield 3. I lived in, take it easy, Terry and E, before we get too far on this. I lived in Springfield, Missouri, and there's a famous unsolved case there, the Springfield 3. We'll cover that. That's a creepy one, too. Terry Nee, your choice. Do you want me to do Michael Nesmith, or do you want me to do, I'm just going to do, forget it, Terry, I'm going to do Michael Nesmith. Okay, I'm going to do that on Monday. And we'll talk about Whiteout when we do Michael Nesmith. Somebody here mentioned Bad Smells. Let's do Bad Smells on Tuesday. And let's do on Wednesday. Oh. Man, I don't know if I want to do Marfan's disease right after Bad Smells. Let's do the microphone on Wednesday. So next week will be Michael Nesmith, then bad smells. We'll rank your worst smells right here on this program. You're welcome. So your family was involved also. I like Mike. Okay, good. Passed away. He actually responded to one of my replies to one of his Facebook postings one time. It was a big moment for me. I love Mike Nesmith. So we're going to do Michael Nesmith, one of the monkeys, and then we're going to do Bad Smells. Then we're going to do The Microphone. And then a week from today, we'll do the Springfield 3. I will probably be experimenting this weekend with Streamlab. And if I do that, I'll have a show. And it'll be very informal and ask me anything. I remember there used to be this mortuary in Broad Ripple, which is where David Letterman graduated from Broad Ripple High School. Kind of a little bohemian section of Indianapolis. Kind of cool. It used to be really cool. Not so cool anymore. It's gotten gentrified. But I had a buddy that lived in there, and I would always talk about it because it was a big mortuary. And Broad Ripple's not that big. It wasn't at the time. And I would always go, strange that such a small and pastoral hamlet would need such a capriciously sized mortuary. And I would invent all these stories of why, that the people were disappearing and how they would trap them and all this. It was fun. And we had a good time with that. We really did. Anyway, that's all I got to tell you about the Speedway murders, also known as the Burger Chef murders, more popularly known as the Burger Chef murders. But Burger Chef, delish. I should probably do a whole show on Burger Chef. I really should, What's going on with this? The Burger Chef began in 1954 in Indianapolis. At its peak, it had 1,050 locations, including some in Canada. It had the Big Chef and the Super Chef hamburgers. Right. In 1982, the General Foods Corporation, owners of the Burger Chef trademark and name, divested itself of the restaurant, gradually selling to the owners of Hardee's. The final restaurant to use Big Burger Chef's branding and signage closed in 1996. 3 former locations, Cleveland, Tennessee, South Charleston, West Virginia, and Reidsville, North Carolina, continue to sell Burger Chef menu items, but no longer operate under that name. So there you are. By 1972, Burger Chef's number of locations, 1,200, was surpassed only by McDonald's 1,600. So they were very competitive with McDonald's. They offered a double burger called the Big Chef, kind of like a Big Mac, and later a quarter-pound hamburger called the Super Chef. They added the Works Bar, which was a revolution. They introduced the Fun Burger, a hamburger with packaging that included puzzles and a small toy. And then they created the Fun Meal, the first kids' meal that included a burger, french fries, a drink, a cookie, and a small toy. Burger Chef was an actual character. He had a little assistant named Jeff. They had other characters, like, McDonald's has Grimace and all the rest of them. They had the magician Burgerini, the vampire Count Fangburger, the talking ape Burgerilla, and Cackleburger, the witch, with riddles and puzzles. When McDonald's introduced their Happy Meal in 1979, 7 years later, the chain sued. What do you think about that? So Burger Chef was a big thing. Their slogans from 70 to 71, there's more to like at Burger Chef. And then 70 to 72, we always treat you right. 71 to 72, Burger Chef puts magic in your meal. And then this was the one I really remember. You get more to like at Burger Chef. And then the Works bar came out and really gave you the works, and then they used at the end nowhere else but Burger Chef. Burger Chef had some great specialty sandwiches. They sold a chicken bacon ranch sandwich. I swear to you, I bought 3 of them at lunch when I went to lunch. They were so good. The breaded chicken with the stuff. Oh my goodness. Michael Gardner, thank you so much for supporting the show. I tried to give you less, but YouTube grabbed me by the back of my wings shirt and stuffed me in the locker. I spent an hour marinating in beefy farts. Are you talking about the Wichita Wings or the band Wings? Finally, I was saved when the janitor heard your podcast on my iPhone playing from my pants, which I could not reach. Thanks again, Tom. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. I really do. Thank you. Thank you. I see shows with absolute clowns, and they're making more in one night than I'll make in a month. And it's not about the money. It's the, oh, come on, man. It's about that. It's about the, come on, man. By the way, I'm going to close the show with our new song that Leon Kennedy created with artwork. He sent artwork. Terry Nee says, I stayed in Eureka Springs once. Where's that? Is that Colorado or somewhere? I don't know where that's at. Chef says, what about Sylvia Likens? Oh, God. Chef. I'm going to write that down, Chef. Big Chef and Super Chef. But Sylvia Likens is almost, you almost can't tell that story. You know? It is so physically descriptive and awful with Gertrude Banishevsky, and that is one of the most absolute brutalization. Just, that story is just awful. Michael Garner says it was Venus and Mars. Venus and Mars. I'm not tracking with that. But Wings, I was hoping it was the Wichita Wings. Was there a Burger Chef in Shippensburg, PA? There had to be at some point in time. I mean, I can go through the, let's see here. Was there ever a Burger Chef restaurant in Shippen? What's the name of that place? Shippensburg, PA. Pennsylvania. Let's just see. There is no public record or widely available information indicating a Burger Chef restaurant was ever located in Shippensburg, Pennsylvania. While the Burger Chef was a large chain that once had over 1,000 locations in the U.S., the brand was and then it gives me the history. So it doesn't tell me what I want to know. Okay, now I see here on Facebook, though, it's a Facebook group called Forgotten Shippensburg. And there's a photo here taken from a 1980 calendar photo from the Burger Chef Memories website. And so, yes, there was a Burger Chef in Shippensburg. Let me see here if I can find some more. And by the way, thank you, AI, answer to all the world's problems. And oh my God, we got to jump on the AI bandwagon. A bunch of people are commenting that yes. Let me see here. I'm even going to give you the intersection. It was on the corner of King and Earl, Terry Nee. Yeah. Randy Gilbert says, I used to sit there and watch trains go by, eating burger and fries, which that's his actual voice, by the way. The Paul McCartney album, Wings. Yes. Well, Paul McCartney had a band called Wings. It was first called I think it was called Paul McCartney and Wings and then Wings. Or it was Wings and then it was Paul McCartney and Wings. His wife was in it playing keyboards. Kinda. Terry Nee says there was a burger chef in Shippensburg, PA. I went to Shippensburg University during the summer to find out what was wrong with me before you went to that other place. Chef says, well, it's time to start pre-closing. Say goodnight, Gracie. Good night, Gracie. Thanks for coming in, Chef. Terry Nee, whose football team is going to lose this weekend at home, says, I remember the Fixin' Bar. It's called the Works Bar. Michael is, I don't know whether that's an apostrophe. It looks like an apostrophe. And well stated, by the way. If you super chat me, anything you do, I will compliment. Terry Nee says, yes, there was a burger chef in Shippensburg, PA, located on the corner of King and Earl Streets where the former Sherman Hotel once stood. It was a popular restaurant in his time. I just remember the chef on the sign. Michael Garner says an accident, but brilliantly played accident since you super chatted me. But I got to the bottom of it, Terry. Don't worry. I don't trust AI for anything. I don't trust no AI for nothing. So remember, next week, Monday, Michael Nesmith, the tall guy with the ski cap in the Monkees, and a lot of other stuff. There's one thing he did that pretty much created MTV, and I'll tell you about it. Tuesday, we'll give a list of bad smells. I think Dupa asked for that. I can't remember specifically. Wednesday, we'll talk about the history of the microphone. And then on Thursday, the Springfield 3, Springfield, Missouri, Unsolved Moida. Terry says, no, I went in 5th grade. Oh, well. Okay, then. All right. Well, that's going to do it for tonight and for this week. Thanks, everybody, for being here and being so awesome all during the week. I am going to close things out because that old clock on the wall and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to close it out. There's the artwork. I'm going to close it out with the new banger of a song that Leon Kennedy has created. And, I think the only thing left to say is, have a great weekend. Sorry about your team, Terry. And I'm going to feel so stupid if they lose. Until next time, we'll see you next time.
With a golden crown, Tom Gulley's ready, no time.